friends and shipmates. Welcome to the retirement ceremony of Lieutenant Nicholas Kwisnek. My name is Lieutenant Joe Sardos, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for today's event. Today we are going to honor and witness the military closure to a portion of Lieutenant Kwisnek's life that has been a gratifying and rewarding career of naval service. The retirement ceremony is the nation's expression of appreciation for a job well done, a sincere official recognition of a long period of faithful and honorable service. We also honor his family for their support and dedication. They have dealt with a multitude of challenges during their Navy journey. We gratefully honor the family's courage and steadfastness and offer our best as they begin a new life. The ceremony you are about to see is a time-honored tradition of naval service. The ceremony itself has changed over the years as the Navy has evolved from predominantly seagoing commands to both sea and shore-based commands. Tradition has it that the commanding officer would say a few words about our shipmate, and fellow shipmates would then provide gifts. Our shipmate will then have an opportunity to make their own closing comments. Following these comments, the retiree would request permission to go ashore, and then would be piped ashore, thus closing 24 years of distinguished service to the United States Navy. Please feel free to take pictures at any time during the ceremony, except during the playing of the national anthem. But also, please ask that if you have a cell phone with you, that you put it in a silent mode of operation. Will the military and guests please rise for the arrival of the official party, presentation of colors, national anthem, and the invocation. Military personnel, please don your cover for colors. Lieutenant Nick Kwisnek arriving. Lieutenant Commander, United States Navy, arriving. Aegis Training and Readiness Center, arriving. Color Guard, parade the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Color guard, post the colors. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Let us pray together. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come in the presence of this wonderful event in which we celebrate the career of a man who was devoted to family, country, and you. Father, we would be remiss if we did not recognize you as our captain of the ship, as our rudder. You're in our wheelhouse. And Lieutenant Kwisnek certainly utilized all that you gave him in his distinguished career of 24 years. Father, we just pray today that we would recognize and call upon your presence, and that what we do and say today might bring glory and honor to you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Bosun, retire the side boys. Will the guests please be seated? Good morning. I'd like to welcome family, friends, shipmates to this special occasion marking the retirement of Lieutenant Nicholas Kwisnek. At this time, I'd like to introduce Commanding Officer Schermerhorn, Commanding Officer of Aegis Training and Readiness Center.
Good morning. Let me get my glasses here because I'm blind. All right, I'll keep this as advertised pretty short and sweet, as by custom. So good morning again, happy Saturday, and welcome to the celebration of 24 years of service for Nick Kwisnek. It is certainly a beautiful, blessed day, and I'm glad to be here and see that everybody could make it. A lot of you. It's great on Saturday. I'd like to recognize Nick's family, Jamie, Clara, William, and James. Thank you. Today we honor your service and sacrifice as well. And also today we celebrate Nick's career, and what a career it has been. Nick has served honorably and at the highest level possible for 2 decades, standing the watch faithfully wherever and whenever our great country needed him to. A little bit about Nick, for those of you who don't know. So Nick is a native of Blairsville, Pennsylvania, joined our great Navy in August of 2000. He was an electronics technician by trade and served on USS Chancellorsville and USS Kearsarge before earning his Mustang commission. As an officer, he served on USS Harry S. Truman and USS Normandy, the mighty USS Normandy. He also did an extended stint on the communication team at the White House staff, and I understand you're on the audio-video team here at the church as well. I'm sure the White House gig helped you out with that. Yeah, that's it, yeah. So White House staff, lots of great stories there to tell, I'm sure, and I think you've told me a couple of them. So I first had the pleasure of meeting Nick in the summer of 2022, so not that long ago, at ATRC during the PCO PXO pipeline. As the course supervisor, Nick was trying to wrangle multiple PXOs and PCOs, and that took a lot of patience, I'm sure. And I saw the ease with which you handled yourself in that endeavor. So Lord knows there are some folks in that pipeline with some rather large egos, and Nick handled them all with ease. I have to say I'm extremely impressed, Nick. You are very approachable, very knowledgeable, and you genuinely care about both the process and putting out a good product. You are always positive, and you don't sweat the small stuff. Those are all things that great leaders do. So thank you for that. And so today we pipe you and your family ashore, and as you go, know that you have left the Navy a better place than when you got here. Your zeal and positivity will be missed, but we know, and we all know, you'll be just across the bridge raising food for countless barbecues, and I will certainly give you some business in that endeavor. And also, and most importantly, enjoying life with your family. You earned it, shipmate. Congratulations.
Department of the Navy. This is to certify that the Secretary of the Navy has awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal, Gold Star in lieu of 5th award, to Lieutenant Nicholas Kwisnek, United States Navy, for meritorious service while serving as AN-75 Prospective Executive Officer, Baseline 9, 5, 4, and 7 Course Supervisor at Surface Combat Systems Training Command, Aegis Training and Readiness Center, ATRC Dahlgren, Virginia, from September 2020 to September 2024. Lieutenant Kwisnek oversaw the execution of 52 convenings for 356 prospective commanding officers and executive officers in ballistic missile defense, anti-air warfare, and anti-surface warfare. As lab lead and tactical action officer mentor, Lieutenant Kwisnek was instrumental in the development of over 500 senior naval officers into proficient fleet warfighters. Lieutenant Kwisnek's superior performance of duties highlights the culmination of 24 years of dedicated service and reflected great credit upon himself, and were in keeping in tradition with the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Okay. Will Lieutenant Blankenship please escort Mrs. Kwisnek to the front?
When the good Lord was creating Navy wives, he was in his 6th day of overtime. An angel appeared and said, "Are you having trouble with this one, Lord? What's wrong with the standard model?" The Lord replied, "Have you seen the specifications on this order? She has to be completely independent, must be sponsored to get on the base and have the quality of both mother and father during cruises, be a perfect hostess to 4 or 40, run on black coffee, handle emergencies without a Buper's manual, be able to handle the flu, birthdays, move around the world if need be on a moment's notice, have a kiss that can heal anything from a child's torn Valentine to her husband's weary day, have the patience of a saint when waiting for the ship to come in, and have 6 pairs of hands." The angel shook her head slowly and said, "6 pairs of hands? No way. And the Lord answering, don't worry, we'll create other Navy wives to help. Besides, it's not the hands that are causing the problem, it's the heart. The heart must swell with pride in her husband, sustain the ache of separations, beat on soundly and strongly when it's too tired to do so, and be large enough to say, I understand, when she really doesn't understand, and say, I love you regardless. Lord, said the angel, touching his sleeve gently, come to bed. You can finish this tomorrow. I can't, said the Lord. I'm so close to creating something unique. I already have one that heals herself when she is sick, can feed 3 unexpected guests who were stuck in the area due to bad weather, and can wave goodbye to her husband from a pier or a runway and fully understand that it is important to our country that he leaves. The angel circled the model of the Navy wife very slowly. It's too soft, she sighed. But tough, said the Lord excitedly. You cannot imagine what this woman can do or endure. Can she think? Asked the angel. Can she think? Why, she can convert 1400 to 2 p.m. Finally, the angel bent over and gently ran her finger across the model's cheek. There's a leak, she pronounced. I told you were trying to put too much into this model. It's not a leak, said the Lord. It's a tear. What for? Asked the angel. It's for joy, sadness, pain, disappointment, loneliness, and pride. You're a genius, exclaimed the angel. The Lord looked somberly at the angel and replied, I didn't put it there.
Will the usher please escort Lieutenant Kwisnek's children, Clara, William, and James, to the front? Certificate of Appreciation from the United States Navy. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. Clara, William, and James Kwisnek. Today, after completing over 24 years of naval service, your father has ended an honorable and faithful service to his country. His efforts are sincerely appreciated. Such a rich and rewarding career reflects a strong commitment to the principles of freedom and democracy and the belief that they must be upheld at any cost. That type of total commitment is not possible without the full support of the entire family. Although you may have never had to carry out one military order, your loyalty and steadfast support of your father's career can rightly be viewed as a service to your country. That loyalty and dedication exemplified the highest traditions of patriotism. On behalf of the Department of the Navy, I extend you a sincere thanks and express our appreciation for a job well done. Given this 4th day of May, 2024. Signed, J.P. Schermerhorn, Commander, United States Navy. Commanding Officer, ATRC. When a person retires from the Navy, it is tradition to present them with a shadow box. Contained within is a chronological listing of duty stations, ribbons, and awards. On behalf of your many shipmates, including those who have made the supreme sacrifice, we wish to present you the sailor's most honored and cherished possession, the United States National Ensign, and the flag which you have so proudly served and so honorably defended. The flag which we honor and serve under is the true emblem of our unity, our thoughts, our power, and our purpose as a nation. Accept it, protect it, guard it, and remember that the young men and women you have trained, guided, and inspired will follow in your footsteps and defend it with equal pride. We bid you fair winds and following seas. Good luck and Godspeed. In his 24 years of service, Nick has been stationed at 9 different commands and lived in 8 different locations. Today, there are people here from nearly every duty station, and we would now like to open up the stage to anyone that would like to share a story about their time serving or living with the Kwisnek family.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to try to get through my speech here with a few tears if possible. And I kind of wish I would have printed it a little larger now that I'm up here. So family and friends, wow, what a beautiful day. We are so blessed to be surrounded by our family and friends as we celebrate Nick's retirement. When we received our first set of orders to San Diego after just getting married, I was scared, never living away from my family, and here we are moving to the other side of the country. And I remember thinking to myself, I am not ready for this. And when I dropped Nick off at the ship for our first deployment, and then each deployment to follow, I remember thinking to myself, I am not ready for this. And when we left Virginia, where we had built such strong roots, and headed for our final duty station in Maryland, I remember thinking to myself, I am not ready for this. And as I stand here today at my husband's retirement ceremony, looking at all of our friends and family, I am again thinking, wow, I am not ready for this. But the truth is, I am. 20 years as a military spouse has prepared me for just about anything and everything life has and will throw our way. As I reflect on how the military has shaped me and our family, it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows. While the Navy has taken us on so many amazing adventures and brought so many wonderful people into our lives, it's also brought its fair share of hardships, like moving every few years, new jobs, changing schools, saying goodbye to friends, and deployments that felt like they would never end. I thought with time those things would get easier, and in a way they did. They did, but when our children came along, that proved to be some of the most challenging parts of our time in the Navy. It's always painful to watch your children miss their parent and not be able to wrap their minds around why he left. I specifically remember the deployment when our children started to understand the dangers associated with his job and was no longer thinking that Nick was away fighting pirates on a ship and building sandcastles. That was a rough deployment, but as they grew up, we were able to help them understand the importance of these deployments and what it meant to make sacrifices in defense of our ideals and freedoms. I know without a doubt I could not have made it through these last 20 years without the love and support of our family and friends. I know a lot of our Virginia friends are watching on Facebook, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for making sure we were always taken care of. From coming to the church in the evenings and before church on Sundays to watch our children so I could attend chorus practices, and making sure every Bible study and every event had childcare, so I never felt left out or disconnected when Nick was gone. To the kitchen staff at West Haven Baptist who used to send me home with all the leftovers from Wednesday night suppers just to make sure my week went a little easier. You don't know how much that helped. To our friends that held us when we cried, prayed for us when we were struggling, and would drop everything to be there when there was a need. Your long talks on the phone and our venting crying sessions on the front porch made a difference. You helped bring comfort and peace when I was struggling. Please know that you are so special to us, and I thank God that He put you in our lives. I want to say a special thank you to my mom. She is often behind the scenes, and it probably looks like, wow, that family is so organized and they have everything just so put together. I can assure you, we do not. It's the extra set of hands from my mother that has allowed things to flow so smoothly. We are often overcommitted, So much so that Nick and I have weekly scheduling meetings just to make sure that we can do all the activities on our calendar. And my mom is always there asking, what can I do? Whether it's a meal or getting kids to practice or just helping with the laundry. She is always finding a way to help. Mom, thank you. Thank you for being the most helpful and giving person that I know. I learned a lot as a Navy spouse over the last 20 years. I've learned how to pick up my life and go, how to make new friends practically overnight. I've learned that when Nick leaves, everything starts to break or stops running. And I've learned how to handle those situations when it happens. I've learned how to be a leader in our home and make important decisions for our family. The Navy has made me strong and resilient, ready to face anything thrown my way. Nick, we have weathered many storms together, and we have argued, fought, disagreed, caved, and sometimes stood firm for what we believed. Yet we always come together, and never have we ever gave up on us. And after 24 years of service, I want you to know a few things. I love you, and thank God every day that He put a partner in my life so understanding and patient. Someone that loves me no matter what and willing to fight for us with such a love and passion. Please know that no one could be more proud of all the many things that you have accomplished, not just in your military career, but in all that you do. I have watched you grow into a man, a godly man, and a strong spiritual leader in our home, keeping Christ center in all that we do. Thank you for being such a loving father. You have always put our children's needs ahead of your own. I am very thankful that we have been able to take this journey together, that the Lord has given us such a beautiful life, and I look forward to all our many adventures to come. So yes, I'm ready for this. Thank you for coming today.
The podium is open for anyone else who would like to come up and make remarks.
Don't worry, guys, I'm not a big crier. All right. I actually wrote this down on my phone, so let me just open that up. I'm the oldest one. You might know me from the crafts you see on Facebook on my dad's page, but I'm the one that doesn't play baseball. Honestly, I help my dad on the farm a lot, and that's probably where you see a lot of me, but I don't really know why he wants to get a new job. He's already so good at the farm thing. And he's such an admirable, smart farmer. Like, I really think he can make something out of that, but yeah, I don't think he needs another job personally. But I guess the thing about my dad is he's a worker, definitely a worker. He works to relax. He wakes up no later than 6 a.m. to go to his job and his hour-long commute. But and then he comes home and he goes down to his barns to go worm goats and lose another finger. And that kind of commitment and routine is just incredible to me. So I assume he must really like his farm, which is why I feel so loved when he asks me to help him sow corn, spread manure, or feed the goats so they can become big goats and become big money. And he offers to share his farm too. He lets me use old containers or fields to plant my vegetables in, or even let me raise a few animals, which I never stuck with. But still, it meant a lot that he would share his kind of personal hobby with me. But yeah, my dad's definitely a worker, which is why this retirement from his job means so much. My earliest memory, like my first one, was getting a little stuffed doll, more like a pillow, but it had my dad in uniform on it. It was from the military, and my mom gave it to me in my crib. I stood up and took it, and I still have that doll. I've cherished it ever since the day I got it, not because the military gave it to me, but because it had my dad on it. ever since I was a kid, my dad's gone on deployments. No longer than a year, though, which is more I can say for other military kids. And these deployments were hard for me and my family because my dad, he was a good dad. I mean, I tell people my dad's in the Navy, and he's like, oh, he must be real tough and keep things straight in your household, real strict. You must wake up to trumpets every morning, which I find funny because I actually wake up really late. My dad wakes me up like whenever I have a commitment to a big, goofy smile, and he gives me a big hug and gives me like 10 minutes to get myself together. It's like the least strict wake up you can have. But my dad's gone on deployments until I was maybe 12 years old. He's missed birthdays and Christmases and those family moments. And I'm not taking pity on myself. I mean, this is my dad's retirement. This is about him. And sure, it was hard for me and my family, but I think something I forget and me and my family forgets is how hard that might have felt for my dad. I mean, my dad loves his family so much that he signed up for the military to help support them and give them a happy life, and one that he wasn't even allowed to see all the time. And the amount of strength it takes to leave and go on a depressed gray painted ship for 9 months is an amount I don't think anyone in my family could have and still keep a selfless attitude like my dad does. I certainly couldn't. I could fake it for a few weeks and then have a mental breakdown so bad it would land me in the ER. I mean, that's his work. That's his routine. He's been doing it for 24 years. And him willing to give that up just shows how much he cares for his family. I have a tremendous amount of respect for my dad. And although I may not have loved his job all the time, kind of understandable, but I think if anyone were to have his job, it should have been him. He, handling weapons, he's not a violent person. He's very responsible, and, I believe that when elephants fight the grass, it's the grass that gets hurt, and I think he tried to prevent the grass from getting hurt at any time he could. And I'd be honored to turn out like my dad. And while him and my mom are always in this constant feud of proving I'm more like the other, I think the real reason my dad does that is because he doesn't see himself as someone worth turning out like. So I want to say that I've admired him all my life, ever since I was a little kid, and turning out like Nicholas Kwisnek would be all right. And I made this for his retirement. It's Nicholas Kwisnek quotes with a KW. And my dad says a lot of funny things, which is one of the traits I hope to inherit from him one day. And if you have some advice, a funny story, you could write it down in here. Maybe if I get a lot, I'll turn it into a book, and in my dad's word, it'll sell tens of tens. So, but yeah, not a big crier, but that's all I wanted to say. But I also have a lot of respect for my mom, and the amount of hardship my mom has gone through in her life, it's just really horrible. But I mean, I have a lot of respect for it. And while I don't think I can remember the last time me and my mom agreed on something, I still really respect and admire her, and I think she deserves this more than anyone, to just be able to see this retirement and my dad not having to go out anymore. And I'm really happy that she'll finally get to be the person that she is, that's not under tons of stress with baseball practices, making dinner, and I don't do my chores right, But yeah, and my brothers are pretty cool too. And that's all I have to say.
I promise I'll try to be really brief. So I served with Nick on the cruiser CG-60 USS Normandy. And one of the stories I'd like to share was we were on deployment. I believe it was the 2018 deployment. We were doing some amazing stuff, headed up to the Arctic Circle, a mission that the Navy hadn't been on in the better part of 20 some odd years, if I remember correctly. Some chapter writing stuff that we were doing, and some of our crew that were on that ship. The guys had a great idea to play Titanic on the TV. Now, if you've never had the luxury and the pleasure of serving in this Navy, one of the few reprieves from doing work is getting an opportunity to sit down and watch a little TV in your off time. Well, it wasn't just that the crew decided to play Titanic. It was that they looped it for 4 days straight. So the guys decided to loop Titanic as we're headed to the Arctic Circle that the Navy hadn't quite done in the better part of 20 years. And Nick, he caught me in the POA. He said, "Chief, you've got to make it stop. We've got to stop it. The XO's spoken to me. Everybody's asking me what is going on." I said, "Sir, I'm not sure I'm following. What are we talking about?" He said, "The movie." I said, "Which movie, sir? I don't really get a chance to watch movies these days." He said, "Titanic. It's been on for a week." I said, "Sir, we're rotating the movies. I'm certain of it." He said, "We are not." I said, "I'll look into it. I will look into it the first chance I get." Sure enough, that movie had been on from a Sunday to a Saturday on every channel on that ship. So that was a really great moment. It was a win, but I tell that story to tell you that I'm certain that he probably knew that movie was running up until Tuesday or Wednesday, and it wasn't until Thursday when he started getting his chap hide that he was willing to have the conversation with us to say, "Hey, I think they've had enough. I think we have them exactly where we want them." And that's what I loved about him the most, was that he was willing to let us be us until us was getting in the way of us doing what we needed to do. And it was a pleasure serving with you, and your career was a testament to that. So thank you, Nick, and thank you for letting me be a part of this evolution. Thank you.
I'm Nick's mom, and you probably should have bought stock in Kwisnek 24 years ago. When Nick first started talking about enlisting, there were tears. When he enlisted in the Navy, there were more tears. He said, "I plan to use every travel and educational opportunity the Navy has to offer." Then he graduated, and I cried. When the recruiter left with him, I cried. When we left him at Great Lakes after basic training, I cried for 500 miles. When I would leave him at the airport, I would cry, although I usually got a new pair of shoes on the way home. Then Joe would cry. When Nick flew to Guam on September 4th, 2001, we all went to the airport, all the way to the gate, pocket knives and all. A week later, I cried at work. I cried at home. I cried at a prayer meeting. The future for our military would be so uncertain. Our lives were forever changed on September 11th, 2001, but our faith has stayed the course. Let's go back to basic training. It was the era of BC, before cell phones. The first call home was very important. I should have brought more Kleenex. The first call home was very important. It could come at any time. There was no way of knowing when he would call. The evening Nick got his chance to call, Ben was participating at the county fair's tractor pull. If you're unsure what that is, ask one of the boys later. Needless to say, we were not home. Graham and Pap weren't home. Dad would be at work, I'll call there. Nope, he was at the fair too. But Dad's boss answered the phone, and he finally got to talk to somebody from home. And again, I cried. I'm going to read a few excerpts from Nick's letters home. And don't worry, Nick, I used discretion. He writes to us, I'm about to leave Japan, not sure where I'm going or when I'll be back. The internet is shut off already. Don't tell anyone I'm deployed. No one is to know. I just don't want you worrying. We have a lot to get done tonight and not enough time. P.S. Tell Frank to give him hell at J.O.'s. Again, you can ask him later. And another sentence he wrote in a lot of his letters home, keep Ben out of my truck. In another letter from November 2002, possibly the same mission, he writes, we have been working nonstop for 4 days. A SEAL team came on board to participate in 7th Fleet exercises. That's most of the ships out of Japan and Guam. We are kicking ass. They said we have the best comm shack, communications department, out of any of the ships they have been on. We get communications up and going quick. If it goes down, we fix it. That's my end of it. They brought on a couple systems we don't use. We have been configuring means of setting them up. One of their antennae needs to go up on the main mast for one of their systems. The ship is going 30 knots now, and we need to slow to 15 before we go up. I told the department head, 30 knots is nothing. I've hung out of my pickup going faster than that. He laughed and said, you crazy redneck. So Paul, Bobo, and I go up the mast. The ship slows down, finds calmer seas, and we proceed to mount the antenna. The winds were like being hit with a cold hammer. As we were finishing, the seas got rough again. Going down, I prayed my harness would hold. I was being tossed around like a rag doll up there. After an eternity, the seas settled, the system was up and running, and we were down. Everybody is happy. Another time he writes, I am a leader, and I don't get to do much leading as an E4, but being an officer is looking better and better. Nick's can-do attitude came into play time and time again as he moved up through the ranks. Through his Navy career, Joe and I have been overwhelmed and in awe of the life he has had serving our great country. The love, pride, and joy we feel for our sailor and soldiers is beyond measure. As Nick and his family set sail for this new adventure, we wish them clear skies and calm seas. Thank you. And of course, Mom is already crying.
Is there anybody else who'd like to come up?
Hey, good morning. I'm Danny Sides. Nick came to me at his first duty station, which was Comstron 3, back in 2001. And as his mom said, it was a harrowing time for sure. But lucky his deployed mom, my wife, Amanda, who couldn't be here today, and she apologizes again, Nick, took him under her wing and said, let me take care of this kid. And I think she did a good job. And I think she talked to your mom a few times just to make sure they were on the same page. I'm not going to go into too much what we did in Guam and Saipan and everywhere over there because we've been sworn to secrecy because of all the things that happened at Bud's 2-2, and you guys can ask me later. I think I heard that theme earlier. But believe it or not, Nick asked me then to come to his retirement. And I said, if you ask me, I'll come, buddy. And so here I am. I appreciate the invite. Believe it or not, we used to PT every day in Guam. It was about 90 degrees temperature and about 150% humidity. We'd run 2 to 3 miles a day and then swim half a mile to a mile and then run back to the office. That's all I really required of the guys for about 4 months. And when he came back home, I think he was doing pretty good. He went on to become an officer. I retired as a chief, and I'm just glad to be a part of your life and appreciate it, and appreciate you, dude.
So I had the pleasure of serving with Nick on the mighty Worship Normandy, see the Normandy group over there, and again at ATRC. And one of the first things Nick always says when he meets new people is either you love me or you hate me. And I think the best example I can give of that is on Normandy we had a leak of CHT, so waste, into one of the berthings, and we were getting ready to go on deployment. And we're all sitting in this room, the captain's there, all the maintenance team is there. And their solution was basically to put a Band-Aid on it and send us on our merry way. There wasn't time or money to fix it. And Nick just kind of looked, quietly and calmly and collectively looked around and said, well, you don't care about these sailors. Swinging to the people hate me part, that did not go over well. People were very insulted and affronted that someone would call them out like that. But miraculously, time was found, money was found, and a much more workable solution was found so that people could live in a habitable space. And that is kind of how Nick has handled everything, is you will get the honest and upfront and candid truth from him, solicited and sometimes unsolicited advice. But it was always for a purpose. It was always for the good of people being treated like human beings. It was always for the good of the command. And even though Nick sometimes grumbled and made an endless amount of really bad dad jokes throughout the whole process, he was always committed to making people's lives better, mentoring people, and making the command he went to better. So Nick, thank you so much for being a phenomenal friend and a mentor throughout the years, and I wish you and your family nothing but the best.
All right, last call before we move on. Okay, it now gives me great pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker, Lieutenant Commander Greg Tornamby. Did I say that right? Yep. All right, good. Should have asked before.
All right, good morning. So I think what I'm going to do here is put some context behind these comments. We're going to go through Nick's career. I know he's too humble to want me to do that, but I'd be remiss if we didn't go through 24 years and recap every place that he's been and talk a little bit about each. So today is a bittersweet day, Nick. I am very happy to be here for one last sail with you and your family. Today is bittersweet in the fact that bitter, we'll see him later. I will see him later in literally a month when I come back here to ATRC and to the commander to work and get training before I go to XOCO afloat. But it's sweet in the fact that Nick gets to spend so much more time with his family now. First, I want to thank Lieutenant Sardos. You came here to do this, and it's not every time that somebody gets nominated to be the narrator to a retirement ceremony. The color guard, the side boys, things like this just don't happen. So I really appreciate you all showing up to put in for Nick at this retirement ceremony. Commander Schimmerhorn, thank you as well for your comments. Thank you for what you've done for the family and for Nick. Nick, thank you for giving me the honor and the privilege to be here. All right, so all of us know Nick. this ceremony is not for Nick. He's too humble for that. His humility is very rare in our service, and his humility is very rare as a human being. Military families. I'm going to focus on you now. Military families are special. It's an accomplishment beyond understanding by non-military families to get to the end of a 24-year career with the same person, Jamie, next to him. Adding a few along the way, of course. Jamie, thank you. You've sailed with Nick for nearly his entire career since November of 2005. So next year is going to be an awesome 20th anniversary. Nick is all to you. He's all yours. Thank you for keeping the watch at home while Dad was deployed. I also note that your work as a nurse is special in its own right. Your dedication to your profession and the compassion you show to those in your care does not go unnoticed. Your presence as a nurse and a mother brings comfort and reassurance. Your kindness makes a significant difference in the lives of those that you serve. And for that, we are all truly grateful. All that said, I want to point out, and I want to note, that you met Nick on a blind date. Is that correct? On a blind date. You're a trucker's daughter, but I'm sure you were prepared for your role as a Navy spouse, being on your own, making decisions for the entire family. I still can't get over you came back after that blind date. Sincerely, thank you for all that you have done to take care of the entire Kwisnek family. Now, military children, they are incredibly resilient. They can handle adversity. We have all three of Nick's children here with us today, and I want to thank each one of you for being a part of the Navy. Your love and support for your father made so much of his life possible. You know, Clara, you made 4 moves before you were 10 years old. 4 moves before you were 10. Yep. I'm told you're best described as an artist, an actor, and a writer. I certainly look forward to you developing those talents further, and I know that the next few years of high school will go by quick, but I'm very happy that your father will be there for every single one of those years. William, Nick tells me you're an athlete, a coach, you're the baseball player, as she noted, and a builder and a fixer. Some of my favorite memories are the times that I spent changing brakes or doing work on the house with my father. So I point out that you should cherish those memories now that Nick will be home with you every single day. James, the baby of the family. So I grew up in a family of 3 boys, just like Nick, and you have 3 siblings. You are the baby. I want to point out that the baby of the family reaps the benefit of getting away with almost anything. Any mayhem that James is going to create for the next couple years can be explained or excused. James, I want you to never forget that the phrase, "I'm sorry and I love you" goes far, but "I'm the baby" goes way further. Your father's incredibly proud of each of you. He's excited to watch you grow and become the adults he knows you are capable to be. I know you will follow in both of your parents' footsteps, and you will be amazing adults. So the thing that I am going to give each one of you today is the spoils of being a Navy officer at sea. He was actually hunting pirates. So I'm going to give each one of you a Spanish real, what's called a piece of 8. A piece of 8 is something from the 1700s that sailed at sea and was captured by pirates usually. So it is the spoils that your father wrought for you, and hopefully helps you remember as you go through the years this ceremony and your connection to the United States Navy. So, I know you're going to be awesome, not just because of your parents, but because of Nick's parents. Joseph and Nancy, you raised an incredibly good man with a sense of duty, strength, and total dedication to his nation and his service. His service reflects incredible credit on the hard work and dedication each of you put into raising him. Nancy, those hours in Pennsylvania as a seamstress, volunteering in your community, Joseph, your farming, your fields, working as a master tech, they built Nick's idea of marriage, parenting, and service. On behalf of a grateful nation, the United States Navy, thank you. Now, I have two older brothers. I know your older brothers, Nick, toughened you up for this Navy gig because you probably wouldn't have made it without them. Ben and his wife, Sarah, Frank and his wife, Lacey, thank you for being here. And thank you for toughening him up by ragging him along and making sure that he could get through boot camp. Getting ready for this retirement was kind of a trip down memory lane, so we're going to go through his commands now. You served at a lot of historic sea and shore commands. You lived the creed of honor, courage, and commitment, Nick. August 2nd, you went to boot camp, as was noted. You said goodbye to Mom and Dad, and you headed off to Great Lakes. You stayed there for ETA school. You went through 19 weeks at Great Lakes, graduating in July of 2001. And as your mother noted, that was just months before September 11th. You joined the Navy not knowing how the world was going to change. But then they sent you to Guam. Your first duty station was MIPS Round 3, as noted by Chief, from 2001 to 2002. Now, I asked Nick, how do you describe that command? He described it as a floating shore duty. I think Chief might have to correct the record on that one. You also noted that that's where you got the party out of you. Anybody who's here who knows Nick, he's not a party guy, so there must have been a lot of partying to get the party out of him back in Guam. After that, you went on to USS Chancellorsville. That's what it was called. It is now called the USS Robert Small CG-62. From 2002 to 2005, this is where he met Jamie in the middle of the tour while he was home on leave. But I think, just like the Chancellorsville changed its name, he wanted to give Jamie a name change as well. So that's where they married in 2005 during PCS leave. Then on to Center for Surface Combat Systems, Det West, 2005 to 2008. Clara, this is where you came into the picture. 2009 to 2012, USS Kearsarge. Started as an ET2, made it to ET1, and this is where they added William to the family. Now we'll note that Captain Dorian Jones, in one of his evals on the USS Kearsarge, he noted that Nick was the #1 of 78 highly motivated petty officer first classes and the best ET1 I have ever seen. I don't know if you understand how big the Kearsarge is as a ship, but we're talking, 1,200 people. And Nick was the best ET1 that this 06, with probably 27 years of service, had ever seen. And you're going to see that as a theme when I keep going. 2012 to 2014, he hit the White House Communications Office. He reported as an ET1, and that's where he commissioned as an LDO. 2014 to 2018, he got to the Harry S. Truman as an ensign, and then became a JG. And James, this is where you were added to the family. Captain Deanna of that ship said that he was the #1 of 20 Lieutenant JGs across all designators. Right, so there are surface warfare officers like me, there are aviators, there are LDOs, and he beat out every single one of them. 2018, this is where our paths crossed. To 2020, you were on USS Normandy, Lieutenant JG to Lieutenant. Now, limited duty officers are limited in the authority the Navy places in them, but they are unlimited in the responsibility that they take on. Nick has heard me say that chiefs train junior officers, and I think as the chiefs out here, Chief Moody, you'd agree, that's written in Navy doctrine. Chiefs train junior officers, but LDOs train department heads. I was that department head. That's what Nick did for me. That's why I am here, to pay my penance to Nick for my training. Captain Stone, then, now Admiral Stone, wrote about Nick in one of his fit reps on the Normandy. He's the best EMO I have served with in 25 years. Nick, you are the standard that I will use to judge the LDOs under my command. I cannot stress that enough. No matter how old you get, no matter how far away from the Navy you are, You will always be the person that I look back to, that I ask questions of, and that I choose to hold as my standard as an LDO. I asked Nick some questions before coming up here, and some of these are pretty standard Nick responses. What did most of the people not know about you, Nick? Well, as your daughter noted, you're a great farmer, you're a teacher, you donate to the food bank, but you're a sci-fi nerd. And I think that today, May 4th, for any Star Wars fans, I really think that Nick chose this day to be May 4th. Yeah. But he likes Star Trek, he likes Marvel, so he doesn't choose any one particular over the other. Nick, you're a nerd, but we love you for it. Now, why did you join? You joined to get a trade and pay for college. Now, what was the secret to him staying, however, was because he wanted to make his parents, his grandparents, his wife, and his children proud. I know that each one of you would agree, he made us proud. What is he most proud of doing? He feels that he helped a lot of people along the way. He started out focusing on being a good follower and then a good leader, and as opportunities arose, those goals morphed as he got more senior and more matured to be an amazing mentor. Nick, I know that's what you're most proud of doing, but countless sailors, our Normandy team that's still back there, knows that to be true. Nick and Jamie, thank you for your friendship, your leadership, your service. We are all so proud of you. Go ashore today with your heads held high. And I did the math here. I guess I'm a nerd to a point. This year's recruitment goal was 40,600 sailors. The Navy wanted to intake 40,600 sailors. Each year, the Navy only selects 450 LDOs and CWOs to commission as officers in the United States Navy. Nick, you had a less than 1% chance to get in this seat where you are today after 24 years. Through your hard work, your family's love and support, you made it here against all of those odds. I'm excited for your post-retirement plans, but I am certainly not more excited than Jamie is. You are ready. Ava and I wish you the best of luck, Godspeed as you enjoy this next chapter, and on behalf, again, of a grateful nation, the Joint Force, every single person in this audience, thank you and congratulations. We have the watch.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Nicholas Kwisnek.
Guess I'm on my own for tissues. I gave them all out. Oh, thank you, kiddo. It's not every day you get to live through your own funeral. All the kind words, people dressed up, we're in a church, I'm in my blues. Joe, you don't have a 21-gun salute outside, do you? No? Okay. Jamie, I'm sure, picked out a nice box. I do want, Clara, just take notes, I do want to be buried in my blues. Pair of Red Wings, not these uncomfortable shoes, a pitchfork, something that looks like a trident. I want them to be confused if they ever find me. I am extremely grateful that everyone in here took the time to come out and celebrate this day with me. I'm very grateful for those that also reached out that wanted to be here that couldn't. I live a rich and blessed life that God graciously allows me to live. There are many things that I do well. Quitting anything has never been one of them. I struggled to celebrate this day. I didn't want to, and Jamie did. And like many compromises married couples make, here we are. And like many things over the years that I said I didn't want to do, and Jamie said we should, I'm grateful for it. It means the world to me that you give up your most precious resource, your time, to come spend it with me. As this chapter of my life comes to an end, I've spent a lot of time reflecting, a lot of time thinking about different things. It's been a slow train coming towards me for a couple years. I'd like to take a little time to share some thoughts I have about it. There are three main decisions that are going to shape a person's life: what they choose to worship, who they choose as their spouse, what they choose as their profession. One of my favorite Bible stories is the story of Jonah. It's a short story, 4 chapters. Our Jewish and Islamic brothers know because it's in an Old Testament. It's a story where God calls to him and gives him a task. Says, "This is what I need you to do." And Jonah runs, tries to get away from it. And he's out in the ocean, and there's a storm. And it's just throwing him everywhere. And I don't know if anybody else has sailed to high north recently, but you can get tossed around. It's a scary time. And his faith in running from God brought those around him to know who God was and demonstrate their power, God's power. They finally threw him overboard because they couldn't stand the storm and they knew it was his fault. After he's overboard, he's still not convinced he should go do this tasking God gave him. He gave him a tasking of going to one of the most terrible, corrupt cities, a city of Nineveh, where they are known for just torturing people that don't believe or act like them. And to tell them they're wrong and to repent, or God's going to destroy them. He's still not convinced. They threw him overboard and the storm stops. Still not convinced he should do this. He sinks to the bottom and he gets swallowed by a fish, a big fish. And in that moment, when he's in that fish about to die, he repents, says he'll do it. Fish spits him out on land. He goes ashore. He goes to Nineveh because he knows, he's like, he ain't getting away from that. I mean, the storm brought him back. The fish put him on land. He's like, I can't get away from this task, and God's got this. And he goes in and he delivers the message. They repent and they're saved. And then he's mad at God for doing what God said he'd do, and God corrects him on a couple things. God has spoken to me through the years. The main language he uses me, it's never been a direct conversation. That'd been nice. It's so much easier to understand. I believe God speaks to me through the Bible, through what I find reading, through the sermons that just hit at the right time or there, and also through the different opportunities. About 2010, 2011, I chose to apply to the White House Communication Agency. Wanted to go there my whole career, sounded so cool. And then I got to meet through my extended family, like less than 1/100th of a chance, a cousin of mine marries a guy that's stationed there and stationed at Camp David. I mean, just the exponentially smaller chances of it. And I liked the area. We visited Aunt Beth and my cousins there quite a bit, and I liked the area. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And I can stay there for 8 years. So I went running up there. Everybody I talked to at the agency, they lost my paperwork. And the detailer tried to send me to a typical Navy shore duty. I'm like, no, that's where I'm going. I'll extend on this ship. Get me there. And that's where I planned on just doing all 8 years there and running from what God's plan was for me. And he swallowed me up in a big gray whale called the Harry S. Truman. And through the opportunity to be a limited duty officer. I don't believe in luck or coincidence. I believe these words are used to cover up a lack of understanding God's plan. Nothing has shaped my life as much, or my outlook on life as much as my study of my Christianity. Somewhere between being a son, a farmer, a sailor, a husband, a teacher, and a father, the parables make more sense each year. I don't have a usual testimony of faith. Some will talk about rock bottom moments or an epiphany. My story is one that lacks a rock bottom moment. I grew up in a home surrounded by other families that knew Jesus and lived a life reflecting God's teachings. God has been at work preparing me to do his will all the way. God has had me in either one of two stages my whole life, training or working. I was born into an amazing family. My parents are amazing people. They are two of the best examples. Hardworking, smart, persevering, caring members of their families and community. I grew up in a home that did not set expectations. They set examples. They lived the standards they set. You will never know it to meet them over the years, how much they have lost, when they've lost loved ones too soon, when they've had their work burn up in front of them, when they've lost jobs, had deals go wrong time after time. It all built the amazing character in which they have bonded them together. They are great examples as a couple and individuals. My dad is a great listener, a tough man and a master technician. His day job was a diesel technician on coal trucks, and his evening job was custom repairs in his shop and farm, and as a farmer. He has such natural technical abilities. He can just figure things out. Anything from crops to farm animals to equipment to people. As a kid, I remember seeing him fix so many things. And he could just do it, like it just came to him. But the times where it didn't, I saw him sit down with a tech manual. He had a locker of them. And he would just sit there and read them. And sometimes he'd make a phone call to a friend of his, Tim Smith, when he couldn't figure it out himself. Stubborn, super stubborn. He's 70 years old, and I still wouldn't mess with him. 4 arms the size of Popeye. When they're making nails, those nails look to be as tough as Joe Kwisnek. Time after time, he demonstrated to my brothers and I, what it is to be a leader, a father, a brother, and a husband. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for reassuring me. Thank you for showing me the way. My mother is the most stubborn person I've ever met. Hands down. That stubbornness only comes second to the love of her family. Nothing mattered to her more than caring for her boys, even the 4th one, Dad. She cared for our home and worked out of it as a seamstress. She fed us well, physically and spiritually. She ensured we knew God and we were involved in the church. She made sure we were involved in the community. Things as simple as helping people move or community cleanup days. She's a giver. Growing up, she gave whatever she could in a tie to the church. She contributed to the toy drives at Christmas. She helped anybody and everybody that came her way. She was always ready to answer the call that God gave her. She showed us that it's not the size of your wallet that allows you to give, but the condition of your heart. Mom, your letters, emails, texts, calls, and constant belief in me has meant so much. You're an amazing example of what it is to be a daughter, a sister, a wife, and a mother. You showed me what to look for in a lady, and I was blessed to find it. I do not use the word brother often. I don't use it in emails. I don't sign off on it. I don't greet people with it. The word means too much to me. A neighbor of mine, a lawyer and a Christian, once told me a brother is someone you can call on day or night to help you, a person that will not question whether it's right or legal, but be there for you no matter what. Last summer, we were home visiting my parents, and a calm Sunday morning, we were about to have brunch. Ben's phone rings. He says, "Yep, be right there." Doesn't say the word to the rest of us. He was on his way to help Frank. Frank's well was out. They have been the best of friends to me. They encourage me when I'm discouraged. They counsel me when I'm confused. There have been many people who have stood up here today and said wonderful things about me. I am not convinced if there were a way to measure a great man that I would win between those two. I will tell you that there isn't a fire I wouldn't light or walk through for those two men. Choose your spouse. If you want a mirror, go to Lowe's. If you want a partner, trust in God. Ben introduced Jamie and I. I was home on leave from Japan. I was on day 2 of 14 days of leave, and I spent the next 12 days with her almost the whole time. My insecurity met her neediness in perfect harmony. Her love of a challenge and my constant need to prove myself has resulted in a great life. We love activities. We always have and we always will. Although sometimes we may not agree on the activity, the busyness will rule the day, nonetheless. Still to this day, and I'm sure well into the future. I recently participated in a Bible study that talked about what it means to be a man. The point was brought up that in our culture, we don't have a rite or a passage where that is defined. To me, my definition of being a man is when you start living for more than yourself. Before I met Jamie, I was a missile flying in 100 directions. I remember having dinner with Tom Duncan right after I got back to the ship and after everything I said about her, I just talked to her. I knew right after I met her I was going to marry her. But I was 21, she was just turning 18, she was going into high school, can't do that. That's just too many red flags there. I'm like, I knew I was going to eventually. And Tom looked at me and he goes, well, you better start taking this seriously. Providing for a wife is no easy feat. I was never set on doing more set on doing the best I could. She's been an amazing military spouse, as many have said today, but I'll say it myself. Her pride in my service has been there since day one and never wavered through all the years. She was built for this. Her mom was often single and moving. Her dad primarily communicated through phone calls and was home for short visits. He was also a Navy man. She believes in me. I struggle to believe in myself. When I was job shopping here recently, I was struggling to apply for some positions, and said they'd be too hard. Said I couldn't do it. She didn't hear that. Never has. She reassured me I could do it and that we would handle anything. She gives me a sense of home and belonging. I've moved a lot. I've tried to fit in places I probably don't fit, or I definitely don't fit in. I'm an odd guy. I really am. I've struggled to fit in, but I always felt like I belonged with her. Regardless of where the road leads us, where the road of life leads us, home is always right beside her and nowhere else, regardless of that zip code. She's been an amazing mother to our children. I have 3 wonderful children. They have each had their health issues that she has driven to resolve. She is fierce when it comes to the care of her babies. She has instilled in them a sense of love and respect for me. While women and children spell love T-I-M-E, men spell it R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Up until reporting to ATRC, I was not around much. My jobs on the ship have always revolved around maintenance, and a lot of the maintenance I perform can't be performed while it's underway. I'm beyond grateful for the care of our family and our home that you have provided over the years. If someone asked me, how do you know if you're ready for children? I could tell them Jamie will tell you, but I would ask them, do you like your spouse and do you like yourself? Because you're about to meet them again. I'm amazed at the talented and strong and beautiful people we are raising. Clara makes everything she touches more beautiful. She sees the positive in everything. I remember holding her right after she was born. I was so nervous. I'm terrible with kids. I am. I didn't want any. I've always been bad with kids. I drop babies. I'm not good with them. And I was so nervous leading up to it. Just didn't know if I could handle it, didn't know if I could handle myself. I was so nervous. And God had a lot of good people around me that reassured me and taught me. And I remember they handed me this little baby that was just fussing, just a fussy little thing, screaming. And they hand me this baby, and it immediately calms down. And we sunk up right that day, and that hasn't broken since. Will, I remember right after you were born, you reached up and grabbed my finger, sat there and held my hand. I've never felt an instant connection like that. I knew from that moment we were going to do so many things in life together. There isn't a person I would rather work with or around. When he and I do projects, it's like I have a third or a fourth hand. We don't have to talk. We don't have to think about it. He just knows what to do, and I'm just so blessed to be able to do things with you. Even at the gym, when we set up weights, we don't talk about it. It just goes. James, your start was a little different. It was scary. It was one of the most frightening times of my life. Your mom wasn't doing well. You were in this incubator at the NICU. It was the scariest, hardest times of my life. I remember Bruce Powers showed up that day, and just another reaffirmation of my faith. And my pastor showed up and prayed with me. But James, you fought through it. You overcame, you got out of that NICU faster than they said you would. You're a fighter, and you're the smartest person I've ever met. I haven't had a child-proof lock since that kid was about 4 months old. He just can figure things out. He just can look at a problem and solve it. And he's funny. God, he's funny. They're all funny in their own ways. They can all tell a joke. They can all deliver them. Yeah. I am so excited to see the adults that you three are going to grow up to be. When my parents, my brothers, or my wife have not been able to get through what God has put in my life, He has put many people along the way to help me. I called out some mentors in the program. Every command I had a pretty solid mentor. Some of them doubled up through the next command. There's just been so many people that have helped me along the way. I remember Dan grabbing a hold of me when I was just not right. I wasn't acting right. I wasn't acting like what I was raised to be, and just getting my head on straight. Teaching me there was more ways than just making life hard on people. Teaching me how to discipline appropriately so that people understood and grew from where their shortcomings were. There have been peers that have helped me along the way. We're blessed to have Warrant Officer retired Wes Weir in the back. We're both ET1s on Kearsarge, and he had the radar shop, I had the comm shop, and it's just a classic story of iron sharpens iron. One of the smartest men I've met, and could just naturally smart, and could read so fast. There wasn't a pub he didn't read like instantly, just download it and then have it in there. Like, I have to go back. It takes me forever to read stuff. And I have to go back and read it and repeat it and do it. But I was just blessed to have served with him. I'm grateful that he came here today. I'm grateful for Tony Paul. I was struggling as a Divo on Truman. That first year as an officer was rough. It was the roughest year of my life. Yeah, I'll go with her. I'll give it that. It was a tough year. That transition, the training, the expectation, the senior people around, it was tough. And I was going into work every day believing I made a mistake. And when Tony came in, he grabbed hold of me, and he reassured me what I was doing, gave me some pointers, put up some guardrails, and helped me become a great officer. Like what Nick Deanna said wouldn't have been in there without Tony. Very grateful for him. I'm very grateful he continued to mentor me when I got to Normandy. When you get so on a carrier, as a LDO, there is a ton of people around to help you. Josh Hildreth was there, and whenever I was still trying to figure myself out, Josh grabbed me. He was an ETCM on there, and he was mentoring me even when I didn't know he was mentoring me on Kearsarge, guided me for a long time, and even still a friend to this day. On the carrier, there's a lot of people. A lot of people will tell you you're doing it wrong or right. On the cruiser, there's nobody for my community. You're just you and your counterpart. And you're just hoping you're doing it right. I had some good examples. Frank Kramer, he couldn't be here with us. A couple other good chiefs. But when I still wasn't sure if I was getting it right, Tony would answer the email, answer the phone call every time, and I'm very grateful. So choose your profession. I've only known one profession I've wanted since I was a little kid. I wanted to be a farmer. Growing up, I really wanted three things. I wanted to be a farmer, I wanted to have a wife, and a bunch of money. Little did I realize, see, the farmers are laughing already. Little did I realize, I need to find that. Little did I realize how these three things don't always go together. Hindsight being 20/20, I wanted to be Don Streams. I wanted to be my pap-pap. As a teenager looking at a 60 to 70-year-old, he sure made it look seamless. I mean, he made it look easy. Looked like anybody could do it. You know, you question where I get my humility from. That guy started every prayer with, or ended every prayer with, let's walk humbly with our God. It was a message I got every prayer. Every time you met him. Anybody that met him knew that. And that was an example I've still try to continue to follow. I guess I wasn't there to see the years where he struggled and worked to build what he had and to make it look so easy. I look at people's accomplishments differently now as a 40-year-old than I did when I was a 20-year-old. Like, I really tried to get a six-pack, but I really like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I think if I could quit eating, I'd probably be pretty fit, but even meals I don't like to quit on. Now when I see people, I appreciate the work they've put in. When I see a guy as fit as Brett Gerhardt, I recognize that he's up at 4:30 every morning to get to the gym, regardless of how hard he worked the night before. When I see a marriage like my parents, I realize they worked hard, they struggled. When people look at Jamie and I, please don't associate it with all sunshine and rainbows. There's work. We try. It's not always easy, but it's always rewarding and worth it. There really isn't much I wouldn't do right now to have a talk with my pap and ask him a few questions. I don't really come from a military family. My grandparents, almost all my uncles, my parents, my brothers are or were all farmers, and on both sides of the family. Almost all of them, though, had a profession or a substantial side business. My pap had a large, successful farm, but he was heavy into real estate and served on a few boards and co-ops. My grandfather on the other side was an equipment operator. One of my brothers is a power plant operator. Both my dad and my other brother are mechanics. The term farming or farmer can mean so many things to different people. The job of it is full of difficult physical tasks, managing all kinds of factors, most of which you can't control, in order to make a product that somebody will eat or wear and wants to buy as cheap as they can. The business aspect of it is very murky. It's a business that doesn't get viewed or talked about like a business. It's a business that requires substantial financial inputs and difficult ways of measuring costs. Over 60 years, we as a nation have watched land prices go from being tied to what the land could produce in a year to what it will produce in 20 to 30 years. The land being viewed as an asset like gold that people are buying and hoarding up. Equipment costs over those times double almost every decade. All the while, some of your competition in the marketplace view it as a tax write-off and they want to lose money or operate at cost. Over the past 4 years, I've experimented with farming. It's been rewarding and challenging. I've succeeded and failed at many things. In 2020, we served 5 families. In 2021, we served around 40. In 2022, it was just over 100. In 2023, 200 families bought their food from us. I have found ways to make it sustainable. I think the biggest factor in my success is one of the methods that I use in the Navy, that I don't get in a race to the bottom, that I collaborate with people. I will not slash prices for customers, but I will explain to them why they should pay me what I'm asking. I will not cut the standards for the quality of my life, but explain to the people around me why they should value their sailors. I very much remember that argument, that planning board for maintenance meeting, and I very much remember telling that guy, and I don't think I was as calm as you let on. He did not care about those sailors. It was female birthing CHT. It was female birthing CHT, and I will tell you the women on that ship were some of the hardest, smartest working ones. Just person for person outpaced most of the men there. And they didn't want to fix it. They wanted to let that leak happen and let them figure out, and deal with the smell and the gross. It wasn't, we weren't having that. I sent that up I told that guy in person, and I emailed everybody at Marmac. They didn't care about us. They didn't care about those sailors, and that they might have a different opinion if that was their daughters. And they showed up. They showed up ready to fix it. It's funny, the things we forget about, that's just part of our day that people will bring up. I lost my page. I have found such a wonderful and supportive network of farmers here in Southern Maryland, and also customers. I love all the different people I get to meet. I meet every day people with similar backgrounds to me. I meet people that just moved to this country and they're first-generation immigrants. And while I haven't yet figured out a way to make it sustainable to the point that it covers the responsibilities I have to provide for my family, I'm getting there. It's only been going for 4 years, and I've been doing this Navy thing for 24. It's got a balance. And it's actually reassuring to me that I've done well enough with this Navy thing that will allow me to continue to keep supporting them. As a teenager, my mom and dad supported my desire to farm. I don't think they were too pleased, but they supported it. When I was a teenager, they asked me that if I decided I wanted to do this, to get a trade so I could have something to fall back on. There were hard times. Many farms went under in the 90s. To everyone's surprise, including my own, I chose the Navy. Little did I know how my teenage years were leading up to it. I took electronics classes in high school, so I placed so well on the ASVAB, and that's where they decided I should work. I remember my senior year, I had to build an AM radio, and in order to pass the class, it had to play a station. I was in small gas engine competitions. In those competitions, you had a 6-step troubleshooting sheet that you had to fill out appropriately before you were issued the part in order to get what you needed to repair it and explain your findings to a board. I won those competitions. And the basis for being an ET that they taught us in Tech Corps is a sheet of 6-step troubleshooting. Needless to say, I did well in those labs and did well with those challenges presented to me in the fleet. I was in public speaking competitions. Every year I went to multiple leadership conferences. FFA and 4-H, they made sure they always nominated me for reasons I didn't understand, but God knew and God put in place. I was even on the AV club. You could not tell 10th grade Nick that he was going to be 30 years later live streaming for his church or setting up video teleconferences for the president. Never saw that coming. While being a farmer may have been my first job desire, I cannot imagine a life where I did not join. My brother Ben called me a few months ago, just heard that Luke Combs song, Where the Wild Things Are, and he goes, I think of you every time I hear that song, except the part where he dies. I'm glad you're still alive. Really glad he specified that, because that's immediately where my thought went. I'm like, is this it? Is today the day? But I really can't imagine of picking a different career. I can't imagine what my life was like. I look at some of my friends. I look at my brothers that have collaborated together, work with my dad, work with their neighbors. I look at my friend Tony, who got to partner up with his family and the success that they have had working together. And I've tried to imagine what my life would be like without that, and I can't. I love the Navy too much. I love being in the Navy. I love serving America. I've had the privilege of seeing 20 other countries. They all had their beautiful scenery, except Oman. Some of them had more resources than others, but none of them had our most valuable resource, the American people. You, I, and the people of this country are what make it great. People with the belief that they can do or be anything, where everyone gets a vote and a say. Everyone gets a chance. People at their core rebel against oppression and crave justice for all. I am proud to have served those people in the small ways that I could. I've had a rewarding career. The Navy has asked a lot of me over the years. It's been very challenging, but rough seas make for skillful sailors. I've been a part of operations that have removed dictators and eliminated terrorist organizations and demonstrated military power, America's military power all over the world. My current assignment is I teach naval officers how to employ the ship's weapon systems against a variety of threats. My main focus is the development and delivery of curriculum to the ship's prospective commanding officers. The focus of this course is to give them the ability to assess readiness, make risk decisions, develop warfighting philosophies. They spend 6 weeks with us during their year-long training pipeline. It's the only part of the pipeline where they get to see and test different techniques and tactics that will affect the war part of the warship they are going to. We spent a lot of time over the last 4 years revising that model, revising how we train sailors. I'm very proud of the model that has been developed. I'm proud to have worked with Lisa Bidark sitting back there, and Christine, Mike Carney. I'm proud to have worked with so many of the other officers that are sitting here with us and the enlisted people that came out to support me in that endeavor. It's hard to quantify whether or not training was effective. It's always hard. It's always the first they're going to blame. I wasn't shown how to do that. You know. It's always the first thing that gets blamed. Over the past 8 months, we have heard of all the different ships in the Red Sea being shot at, or the Middle East in general. All the different times that they have shot at our allies or our own ships. First time in a long time our ships have been fired on. And we've yet to be hit. Hundreds and hundreds of their best weapons fired at our ships or our allies, and we've hit them all. They haven't gotten us. If that doesn't quantify that our training is effective, I don't know what does. I'm proud to serve with each of you. I'm proud of what we do. And I'm proud that what I've done and the people I work with are impacting my friends. I'm glad that you are going to be sitting through this and learning. I'm sorry I won't be there. I'm grateful that along the way I've been part of an institution that resembles my faith. An institution about teaching each other, not perfection. An institution where there's safety, there's guardrails in place, people to help each other, people to care about each other. I hurt my hand. I'm very accident prone, in case you didn't know. Everybody in here should know me. I'm very accident prone. Putting Jamie through nursing school was just self-preservation, yet alone to her desire. And hurt myself in March, had a quick little surgery, was out of work for a couple weeks, and I was so worried about my students being cared for, letting my counterparts down, and giving extra work to people I worked with, and I didn't like that thought. Bothered me sitting in that room. I wanted out of that room. I don't think I've ever wanted out of a hospital so bad, because I had to get to work. I had to work on Monday. And the team there just calmed me down, and they told me, no, you've looked out for us as we've had to step out for different things, and I'd forgotten I'd done that. It was just part of whatever day it was. It meant a lot to me. I'm grateful to be part of this institution that looks out for one another, and I think that's the hardest thing veterans have when they go to transition out, is you don't have that in place anymore. But we have each other, is what I'm told by a good friend of mine in the back there. Like my teenage years, I have no idea what events over this part of my adult life will shape my success in the next chapter. I just took electronics classes because I liked them. They came easy to me. I did public speaking contests because, it got me out of school for half a day. I've taken a job with Lockheed Martin in their foreign military sales. I'll be developing the training requirements for the Aegis weapon systems that we are selling them. I'll be representing our country to foreign navies, doing comparisons, and helping them to, I don't want to sound arrogant with it, but train like we do. I'm excited for this new opportunity and this new way to serve our country. I pray that God guides my words and my path through it and all the upcoming challenges. I haven't talked about two people that are near and dear to my heart yet. Jimmy and Hazel Golden, my in-laws. Hazel's been a great friend to me over the many years. She's the glue that holds our family and our farm together. She has had my back for years. I've known her since 2003. If I've ever done anything to upset her, she hasn't told me. If she's ever had a cross word about me, I haven't heard it. The care for our home and our children is why Jamie and I have been able to pursue so many endeavors in our careers and our communities. Thank you for always supporting us. Thank you for being so kind to me all these years. For those of you who don't know, Jimmy is no longer with us. He died 12 years ago. He was in the Navy. He served for 2 years as an undesignated seaman in the early 60s. But if you talk to him, he made it sound like he was a career bosun's mate. He loved it. He was very proud of it. I met Jamie the summer of 2003. I met Jimmy at Christmas 2003. Part of dating a hometown girl is you go home a lot more than you used to, and to my mom's pleasure, I was back a good bit more. Went from 1 trip a year to 2 to 3. So I was home for Christmas. He came in late on Christmas Eve, spent Christmas Day, and on the third day I knew him. We were starting a routine that would be the staple of our relationship, taking him back to his truck and grabbing a meal along the way. We're sitting down at the Valley Dairy table in Valley Dairy in Blairsville, and he looks over at Jamie and I. We were sitting beside each other across from him, and he goes, so what are you two's plans? He has a thick Tennessee accent. Just imagine it. I can't even imitate it. I told him that I love being with his daughter, and that I wanted to keep seeing her and see how far this goes. He asked me my career intentions, and I told him it was to get a degree and become an officer. He immediately replied back, okay, go ahead and marry her when you're ready. I think that was one of a few meals I didn't finish. I was very taken back by that, and neither did my wife. She was very, very surprised by that. I remember her mouth just hanging down. I don't think it crossed her mind yet. I'd been thinking about it, but I doubt it crossed hers yet. I've done one of those two things I told him I would do. And now that I'm not going to be on the ships as much, I'm going to do the second one. I've gotten to know a lot of people here in southern Maryland and the northern neck of Virginia. I've lived many places. One thing that is common everywhere I've lived is that people are always looking to move from wherever they're living. When I was in San Diego, people were ready to leave San Diego. Japan, get out of Japan. Here, or Waldorf, people were ready to leave Waldorf or Mechanicsville, whatever it is. It's the same story everywhere I've gone. Very rarely do I meet anybody that's like, this place is pretty great. And I think that's more on the person than the location. Between our professions, the farm, sports, or our church, we have such a strong community here. We've built such a strong community of friends over while we've been here. I'm so grateful for everybody that came up. Zach Robbins, we went through A school together. We went to A school together. I remember riding around Great Lakes with you, going to the amusement parks, wondering how we were going to pass these exams we didn't study for. And I'm grateful for our friendship over the years and how we've kept in touch and that you came today. The accomplishment that I'm most proud of in my career isn't not on my uniform, but it's those that have allowed me to influence your lives. The greatest form of flattery is imitation. Some of those have chosen to follow my career path, some just ask for advice. I've always sought the advice and mentorship of those in a step or two ahead of me, even a few ahead of me. And I'm always willing to share what I know with those coming up behind me. There are quite a few that couldn't make it today because their ships had them underway. Scott Viviano, I very much wished he was here, but I'm grateful that Nikki and Lincoln are here representing him. Quite a few others that are just stationed too far away, Hawaii or wherever. I'm grateful for all the love and support that everybody in this community has shown me over the years. Thank you.
Honor Guard, post. Flag honor guard. So, Old Glory. Attention. Cover. Two. Right. Face. Forward. March. Part-time, march. Ready, halt. About face.
I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is held a little higher. My colors are a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped, am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved. I am honored. I am feared. For more than 200 years, I have fought in every battle of every war. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Tarawa, Korea, Vietnam, Grenada, Afghanistan, Iraq, in the heat of the Persian Gulf, in the score of other places long forgotten by all but those who were there with me. I was there. I led my sailors and Marines. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill on Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-torn, and tired, but my sailors and Marines cheered me. I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, and torn and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped set free. It does not hurt me, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country. And when it is done by those whom with I have served in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped surely bonds of earth from my vantage point on the moon. I stand watch over the new frontiers of space. I have been the silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used as bandage for my wounded comrades on the field of battle, when I fly half-mast to honor my sailors and Marines, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the graveside of her fallen son or daughter, I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God, long may I wave. Flag detail, post.
Now Lieutenant Evans will come up and read the watch.
For 24 years, this sailor stood the watch. While some of us were in our bunks at night, this sailor stood the watch. While some of us were in school learning our trade, this sailor stood the watch. And yes, even before some of us were born, this sailor stood the watch. As our families watched the storm clouds of war brewing on the horizons of history, this sailor stood the watch. He stood the watch for 24 years. He stood the watch so that we, our families, and our fellow countrymen could sleep soundly and safely each and every night, knowing that a sailor stood the watch.
Shipmate, I have the watch.
Bosun, stand by to pipe the side. This order has been passed on naval ships from early 1500s through today. Spanish, French, Dutch, and English. Yes, every navy in the world has used the bosun's call and side boys to bring aboard or send ashore its officers and visiting dignitaries. The bosun would pipe the side as the side boys lay on or lay off the lines used to raise or lower the boarding platform. This was done so that officers and visiting dignitaries would not have to climb aboard using the rat lines that the crew used. The ship's master or captain would also extend this privilege and honor to port officials to ensure good berth for his ship while in port. It was not uncommon for the commanding officer of a naval ship of the line to order up the jolly boat, 8 strongbacks to man the oars, along with the bosun and side boys to send an old shipmate ashore to his retirement home, ashore never to sail a naval ship again. All hands on deck was passed. The crew fell in at parade rest for the muster. The commanding officer would make a speech telling about the retirees' service, the great battles fought upon the open seas, the victories, ports of call visited, distant lands that others can only dream about. He would also speak of shipmates left behind. The bosun would stand tall. The side boys and crew were called to attention, and then the retiree would step to the quarterdeck, salute the commanding officer, and request permission to go ashore. Permission granted, the retiree would step out onto the platform, salute the flag he served, and then the retiree would be seated in the stern seats of the jolly boat, going ashore. As the side boys lowered away the jolly boat to the bosun's call, the ship's gunner would fire a final salute from the ship's main battery. The United States Navy was the first Navy to provide side honors to its enlisted crewmen. In the early to mid-1800s, enlisted men were holding retirements for their enlisted shipmates. After the Civil War, the commanding officer would take part in the enlisted retirements to show that he and the Navy recognized the contributions made by the enlisted men. And still today, we heave to stop all engines, lay about smartly, drop anchor, and stand by to pay honor to one of our shipmates, a shipmate going ashore, to honor those years served, the guidance, the leadership, the expertise, and above all, the friendship that this shipmate has given these past 24 years. Bosun, stand by to pipe the side, shipmate going ashore. Will the guests please rise for the departure honors? Stand by for the benediction. Dennis?
Let us pray. Bless us, O Lord, before we go our separate ways. As we congratulate Nick and Jamie and the family for their many years of service, their sacrifice, and their faithfulness, we also look to you, our Heavenly Father, so that Nick and all that serve may inspire us to likewise give sacrificially of ourselves for this great nation that you in your goodness and love have bestowed upon us. Almighty God, help us to remember that freedom does not automatically perpetuate itself, that we have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and most of all, pray for it. Freedom, like faith, needs our attention and our cooperation. And as we continue to celebrate Nick's career by fellowshipping together shortly, may you bless the food and the fellowship to follow, thanking the many hands who have prepared the food and the setting. Now may the strength of God sustain us, may the power of God preserve us, may the hands of God protect us, and may the way of God direct us, and may the love of God go with us this day and forevermore. This we pray in the mighty name of Christ Jesus. Amen.
It has become customary following a retirement for the family to be piped ashore, honoring them for their contribution to their husband's and father's career. Navy family, departing. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Nick and his family would like to thank all of you for sharing this occasion with them. Thank you all. May God bless Lieutenant Kwisnek and continue to bless the United States of America. Please join us in the gymnasium next door.